All right. Let's talk about some of the historical and political events that happened during your lifetime. You said you weren't a political person.
I was not.
Okay. So, let's talk about what did you know about the Civil Rights Movement, for example, when that was happening in the 50s and 60s, especially in Harlem.
I knew all about the civil rights. I knew everything that was happening. I collected all different kind of articles and stuff. I was able to talk to some of the people that were actually involved. But I myself never got involved on that level.
Who did you talk to who was involved?
Let's see, because most of these people I were introduced to by my mother, because my mother was very political. I was not. Trying to think now. Well, James Baldwin. I mean, you know, I talked with him.
Do you remember?
Reynolds, the guy with the railroad.
It's a
Randolph.
Asa Philip Randolph.
Yes. I have been introduced and talked with him. Women, I never talked too much with the women that were involved.
What do you remember about James Baldwin and Asa Philip Randolph?
I remember about James Baldwin was that he was, to me, he was like a kind of pixie guy. And his way of speaking was very clipped. But he didn't speak unless he had really something to say.
When did you meet him?
I met him at a demonstration that I was drugged to.
By your mother?
Yeah. And I don't know, because I'll tell you truthfully, those things did not make a big impression on me.
Why not?
Because I was living my life.
Okay. And they weren't talking about your life?
They weren't talking about my life.
Okay. Okay. Same thing with Asa Philip Randolph?
Right.
Did you meet Bear Buster?
No.
No.
I saw him,
Okay.
but I never met him personally.
Okay.
I have been privy to meet people in the entertainment world, who I mean, like Nancy Wilson. At the time, it was
How did you meet her?
through one of my friends, because she was very much into the entertainment field.
Okay.
And we used to hang out together. So there was always someplace going backstage or meeting someone or something like that. And
This is around New York?
yes, around the world.
Okay. Okay. We talked about Malcolm X before. He was active in Harlem during that time. Tell me a little about what you remember about him.
I remember Malcolm X mostly. You know, they used to have a ladder on 125th Street. I remember him speaking from there. I remember seeing him in the neighborhood. I remember eating in some of the restaurants that the Muslims had at the time.
What did you think of him?
At the time, I felt personally that he wasn't going to be here long.
Why is that?
In the vernacular of black people, he was putting all our business in the street. He was making us really think, you know.
And there was going to be a price to pay?
Yes.
What did you think of his ideas?
I thought his ideas were, I'll tell you how I felt at the time. I felt that his ideas were a little too progressive, that they were speaking too much mainly to black people, but not really showing us how we could achieve a lot.
Okay.
I think he was a banner bearer, but I didn't see his ideas as being ideas that could get a whole black nation to move.
Did you feel differently about him before and after he was in the Nation of Islam?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I felt different after he visited Mecca. He seemed to come back with a different spirit, and I have to say, a much humbler spirit than I've ever seen.
How did you see that from his public pronouncements or from what you saw of him in New York?
From what I saw of him and from what I read.
Okay. How did you feel when he was assassinated? How did you find out?
I was riding on Franklin Avenue. I was driving on Franklin Avenue. I was in Brooklyn bringing the kids back from roller skating. When the news came. On the radio, I had to pull over to the side.
Why?
Not because he had died, but the way he died.
What about the way he died?
I felt that a man doing what he was doing should have been better protected.
Okay. What do you think about him now?
He brought a lot of glory. And in reading back over his speeches and all, and he was a great man. A little bit before his time.
In the contest of ideas between Malcolm X, Dr. King, and let's throw in Adam Clayton Powell into the mix, who did you feel had the best ideas?
I don't think it was a matter of best ideas. I looked at the collaboration of ideas. And I think that's what we were getting to, was the collaboration of ideas when most of these leaders were assassinated.
I mentioned Adam Clayton Powell. He was certainly a presence in Harlem during this time. What did you know about him?
That he was a playboy. That is the main thing that I remember about him until I also started reading about his life and found out just where he was in this government. And that if anything had happened to the president or the vice president, that he would have been president.
Adam Clayton Powell comes on the scene politically in the 1940s. When did you become aware of him?
In the 1940s, when he became political, because my Aunt Julia belonged to the Star, was it?
Eastern Stars?
Stars.
Right.
And oh boy, there wasn't a parade, there wasn't a conference, there wasn't anything that I didn't know about. Not that I didn't attend it, but I knew about it. And Julia made sure I knew about it.
Okay. And he would be at a lot of those events?
Yes.
Okay. Did his ideas attract you at all?
I thought they were good ideas. I thought they were sound. Lately, that's about it. I thought they were sound ideas.
Okay. And last person among black civil rights leaders, political leaders, I want to ask you about Shirley Chisholm. When she comes along in the 1970s, were you aware of her?
Very much so. I worked on the campaign.
Did you? In 72?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. You weren't a political person.
No. But I worked on the campaign, on the campaign because first of all, she was a woman. And next of all, she was black. And I wanted to see how far she could succeed. And if I could be a part of that, it was okay with me.
She got a lot of criticism from black men in Congress for pushing for committee assignments, running for president, all of that. How did you feel about that?
Shirley Chisholm had a goal, and she knew the difference between her goal and her priorities. And I think she worked daily on the priorities, which were getting women out there, black women, letting black people know that they are a part of the system and that they can give to as well as take from the system. I don't think she was before her time. I think that there was a problem with acceptance of her. But the Shirley Chisholm that I knew was a very warm person who liked to laugh.
Gay liberation movement is also starting up during this time. A lot of that activity was happening in New York in the late 50s and 60s. What was your relationship to that?
How was it?
Why?
I had a family to raise. And I didn't feel as if I could give my best to anything if I fragmented myself off in different places. And I needed to be present for my family, not only my biological family, but for the family of my mate.
There were a few publications that were starting up in the late 50s, early 60s. I know one of them was the organization Daughters of Bilitis.
Yes.
And Lorraine Hansberry now, it's known now, but Lorraine Hansberry wrote these pseudonymous letters to Daughters of Bilitis. Were you aware of Daughters of Bilitis? Were you aware of Lorraine Hansberry?
Every paper, bag, because they used to come in brown paper. That's the way I got it. Every issue.
Okay, so you were getting that published?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Did you know that Lorraine Hansberry was a lesbian?
No.
Certainly you were aware of Lorraine Hansberry.
Oh, definitely.
Son,
yes, yes.
All of that. So.
But I was not aware that she was a lesbian.
Okay. And did you meet her at all, or did you know her?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
So she wasn't one of your entertainment industry.
No.
So you're reading the publication, but you're not getting involved.
But I'm not getting involved. I read the publication for information.
Okay.
I needed to know, but didn't feel that I wanted to be involved.